You ready? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, phone, I gotta get the phone on.
Let the record show everyone's present except for Supervisor Groby. We have a lot of resolutions, or public hearings and resolutions, I guess, so we'll try to
You are currently the only person in this conference.
those through. Can I get a motion and a second for the consent agenda?
So, second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Chairman Belt, I'd like to amend the agenda on 6A
Okay,
to say closed session with Andy Brown, our sheriff, and Matt Wilbur, our county attorney. A closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 21.5, Parent 1, Parent C, for discussion on pending litigation.
Second.
you got it first by Supervisor Wickman and a second by Schultz. Any discussion?
So you're changing that to 21.5,
C.
one
Parent
C?
Parent C, yes.
Okay.
Pending litigation.
Yeah, from personnel to legal.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, so we'll start out, first is a public hearing on the authorization of loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 300,000, general obligation capital loan notes number 1, and to sign resolution number 57-2021, instituting proceedings to additional action.
So moved. Second.
Okay. That's the public hearing. Any comments
We need a
from?
roll call first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Chairman
roll
Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Shea,
Aye.
Wickman,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Just, so the record, I did ask if we could, combine all these into one public hearing. At this point,
You got outvoted?
outlawed. I got outlawed, and that's why the law, I fought the law and the law won. Okay, the public hearing's open. Anybody from the public? Is there anybody on there? Okay.
Move to close.
Second.
Okay, roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Wickman,
Aye.
and Shea.
Aye.
Okay, now we need
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 57-2021, instituting proceedings to take place on additional action.
Second.
Okay,
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of notes to evidence of the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 225,000, general obligation capital loan notes number 2, and to sign resolution number 5821, instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Shea,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, any?
I'll move to close.
Second.
Okay, motion and a a second to approve the authorization board to sign board
We'll
resolution.
need a roll call to go out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Shea, Wickman, Schultz.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 58-2021.
Second.
Died for lack of second.
I got it, second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Okay, C, public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 300,000 general obligation. Capital loan notes number 3 and to sign resolution 5921 instituting proceedings to take additional action.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Shea, Wickman.
Aye.
And from the public,
I'll move to close.
Second.
roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Shea, Wickman, Schultz.
Aye.
Okay, motion and a second to approve and authorize the board to sign Board Resolution 5921 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Okay, public hearing on the authorization of loan agreement and issuance of notes and evidence of obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 150,000 general obligation notes. Number 4, and to sign Board Resolution 60-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Tim, you made, Supervisor Whitman, you made the motion. Supervisor Shea, open public hearing. Roll call.
Supervisor Belt,
Aye.
Shea, Wickman,
Aye.
and Schultz.
Aye.
Any public? Still no public?
No public.
I'll move to close.
Second. Motion to close. Supervisor Whitman, Supervisor Shea. Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Shea, Schultz,
Aye.
Wickman.
Motion and a second to approve and authorize board to sign resolution 60-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Schultz,
Aye.
and Shea.
Public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 200,000 general obligation notes number 5 and to sign Board Resolution 61-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Wickman, Shea.
Aye.
Anyone?
I'll move to close.
Second.
Motion to close. Whitman, Supervisor Whitman, Supervisor Shea. Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Shea, Wickman, Schultz.
Aye.
Motion and a second to approve and authorize board to sign resolution number 61-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Schultz,
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing to authorize authorization of a loan agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 300,000 general obligation loan notes number 6 and to sign resolution number 62-21 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Shea, Schultz.
Aye.
Any public comment?
No public.
No public comment?
I'll move to close. Second.
Supervisor Wickman, Supervisor Shea, roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Shay,
Aye.
Wickman.
Motion and a second to approve the authorization board to sign board resolution 62-2021 is to proceed to take action.
So moved. Second.
It's kind of a tie for second, Melvin.
Okay, I got Shay,
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Wickman, Schultz, and Shay.
Aye.
Public hearing on the authorization of loan agreement and the issuance of notes to the evidence, the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 25,000 general obligation. Capital loan notes number 7 and to sign resolution 6321 instituting proceedings to take action.
Move to public hearing. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Shay, Wickman, Schultz.
Any public?
No.
No public. Motion.
I'll move to close. Second.
Shay. Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Schultz,
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Motion and second to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 6321 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second. Second. Whatever. Whichever you want.
Roll
I
call.
got Schultz and Shay. Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Schultz,
Aye.
and Shay.
Aye.
Public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 300,000 general obligation loan notes number 8 and sign resolution 64-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Anything from the public?
No.
Nope.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Shay,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Still none, right?
No.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call. Aye.
Supervisor Schultz,
Aye.
Wickman, and Shay.
Aye.
Motion and second to approve and authorize board to sign resolution number 64-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Schultz,
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing on authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of notes and evidence the obligation of the county thereunder not to exceed 60,000 general obligation capital loan notes number 9 and to sign resolution 65-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisor Shay,
Aye.
Wickman, and Schultz.
Aye.
No public. Okay. Motion to close.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman, Shay,
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Motion and second to approve and authorize board to sign resolution 65-2021 instituting proceedings to take action.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Chairman Belt, Supervisors Wickman, Schultz,
Aye.
and Shay.
Aye.
Okay. Through some of the resolutions.
Wow.
Ways to go yet. Okay, and then next up we have Lacey Sampson, Board Chair, Potawatomi County Housing Trust Fund, discussion and/or decision to approve funding request in the amount of $15,000 for Potawatomi County Housing Trust Fund. this,
I'll make a motion.
Are you Lacy?
I am.
yeah,
I'll second it.
okay. Discussion. This is the, I'd say normal amount, but this is our typical contribution. In the past, I think we've taken it out of the gaming funds, haven't we?
Away from the last bill, right? 2 years ago. Didn't we switch to,
Well, yeah, we switched from being in the SWIPCO Housing Trust Fund, right?
yeah,
And this would be considered, I don't know, is the agreement in here? Is there an agreement in here, Lacey, did you send
No, just a letter of request.
a letter request? Okay, but this would be, my understanding, considered, that language, but economic development under 15A, right, Matt?
It has to be, if you're gonna give a donation, and I think we've got some advice from the state auditor, as far as what donations can be made to nonprofits. It's clearly impermissible if it's under 15A, which is for economic development purposes. I know the Attorney General's office is working on some guidance to boards and, counties. I talked to them at our conference last week. I think their opinion is maybe the state auditor went a little broad in the, discussion about what's permissible for donations and what's not. But at this point, that's really all we have. We're still waiting on that guidance from the Attorney General's office. So if this qualifies as something that assists with economic development for the county, then you need to make sure you've got that probably in your motion. Otherwise, I think we probably have to take a look at an agreement or something along those lines so we don't run afoul of the state auditor's guidance.
Well, we're getting a form put together that will have those in it, such as more of a contract situation.
And Brian, since Brian Shea might not have been here when when the transition happened, but the reasoning on why the Board of Supervisors contributes this funding to the Potawatomi County Housing Trust Fund is because there is funding that comes down from the Iowa Economic Development Authority for these efforts, and that there's a match contribution that gets raised to that. This is a portion of that, and the local governing bodies have to contribute to that, and then and at the time it was, I wanted to say there was like $300,000 that came down when it was SWIPCO potentially, and so that's what we were getting transitioned over when we joined forces with the Council Bluffs Housing Trust Fund at the time, which then changed and modified its name to be more inclusive of all of Potawatomi County for that. So there's a match requirement for larger funding is what this is. It's not just, it's 15,000 that gets turned into a lot more.
Matt Wyant, that, it says in the letter that Lacey sent that, over 270 came to Potawatomi County Housing Trust Fund, have 270,000. Do you have any idea what the breakdown is, how much was spent outside the city limits of Council Bluffs and what was spent in Potawatomi County?
We can get that breakdown and send it to you, but I know, last year, we, whereas the first year that we were able to grant out in the county, and we had a couple of projects, in the county last year.
Yeah, if you can get that to us, appreciate it. Take a look at it.
Do you serve on there, Matt?
No, I do not.
There's somebody from the county that serves on there, isn't
There were several rural representatives on the board when it was Council Bluffs Housing Trust Fund, and then they had a few other rural representatives. So rural Potawatomi County is represented on their board, just nobody from the county directly.
Okay. So, how do you get to be a board member, I guess, is a question.
You're just nominated and then,
Nominated by the board, your board? Okay. Thank you. So with a friendly amendment, from Supervisor Shea and Schultz, we'll have it specify that it's economic development pursuant to chapter 15A and come out of gaming.
Yep, I agree with that.
That'll work.
Okay. Any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you, Lacey.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Next up, we have Jason Slack, Director of Buildings and Grounds, and John Jorgensen, HGM, discussion and/or decision on how to proceed with the courthouse campus parking construction plan.
So what we have is some conceptual layouts of what it would be for a parking structure and some surface parking in the courthouse lot and services building lot, and some preliminary opinion of probable cost. You guys have that before you. And then also we have a preliminary opinion of cost for the elections building parking, which would add 50 stalls in the alley and in the lot next to the elections building. Do you guys have any questions for John?
What's total cost on this?
The parking structure is probably cost prohibitive at $7,670,000. Wow. That's, yeah, I mean, what do we figure, $80,000 per parking stall? It's probably, yeah, not gonna happen, but we have the conceptual layout for the expanded services building parking and reconstruct of the courthouse meter parking lot.
What's the cost on that?
The cost on the courthouse lot was $320,000, and that does need to be done. We've built up the asphalt to the point to where there's no drainage. The curbs are almost non-existent in places. And we've had a couple different sinkholes open up in that parking lot over the last couple of years we've had to repair. So it's to the point now where we need to address it, tear it up and redo it. And then the services building, I'm not sure exactly, what the future of that services building lot is, whether we decide to put surface parking where the existing services building is, or if there's other intentions for that. But we do have the preliminary opinion at $180,000 to surface that.
That would be to surface it with hard concrete?
Concrete, yes.
Have you talked with the city, would they allow us to do that?
Yes.
We have to do green space there too?
There is a certain setback that they're asking us to keep, but I think was it 3 foot or 6? 5 foot. 5 foot from the sidewalk. There would be grass, so there's a little bit of setback. I don't necessarily think that they told us that we need to have trees there. They did throw the idea of maybe some fencing or something around it, so.
Well, I believe that
I'm not asking the board to make a decision today. I just want you guys to have all the information in front of you, so you kind of understand what we're looking at, I guess.
the parking lot that's out east of the courthouse is in need of some reconstruction and some repair. We really haven't, as a board, had a discussion on what we're doing with either of those lots, either the one that's east of the courthouse or the one where the services building is. So I think we maybe need to have a study session on that and include the people that might be affected, departments that could be affected by or which way we decide to move forward. That would be probably the public health department, and whether we're going to move forward with a facility for that department and where would it go. That help us make the decision on what we need to do for the parking lot. But I appreciate those numbers, at least it gives us something that we can look at. If you take that quote from the services building parking garage area, or just a parking garage period, with 3 levels, if we only did 2 levels, what, can you divide that cost by 3 and come up with a 2-level lot?
It's about 100 square foot, $100 a square foot for the structure for each level.
Okay.
So yeah, you're still talking $4 million for 2 levels versus 3, so.
Are we working on another number for parking over here at by the elections building?
Yep,
No,
John
no
has
moves.
actually got the plans drawn up for the elections building, parking, everything's updated. The preliminary opinion on that was $246,100. That would add 50 parking stalls.
That was, what did you say, 2 what?
246
$250,000.
100.
Okay.
And we are
How many stalls was that one then?
50.
50?
Yep.
How many's over there now?
Just the 3 or 4 that's right around the elections building.
You're not counting those, though, are you?
No. So today we're losing 53 parking stalls around the courthouse. Just for your information, due to the construction.
So are the contractors gonna park inside the fence?
Contractors have to keep their vehicles within the construction site in the fenced-in area. Unless they're driving their vehicles, personal vehicles, or any overflows, gotta go down to the VA lot.
How soon could we do this? Elections, parking lot.
I put it out to bid whenever the board approves it.
We paved the alleyway too,
Yeah, it would pave the entire alley from Fifth Avenue all the way to Sixth Avenue.
pave it up to the dock then.
Yes. It would also pave the west side of the alley, and there would be parking stalls on the west side of the alley. You can see that in the drawings.
Do we own that west side of the alleyway all the way up to Fifth Avenue?
Yep.
I think we ought to get it on the agenda for a discussion and get our departments in here and find out how many people actually work in the courthouse, where we can put them.
I think we're gonna have a mess if we don't start doing something.
Right now, we've got 152 stalls down at the Veterans Affairs Building. Right about 30 of those are county vehicles being parked down there, being taken up by county vehicles. 7 of them are handicapped.
How many employees actually work inside the courthouse?
I don't have that number.
I mean, that would help. You don't have that number on the agenda?
Yeah, please, if you would, please.
Well, we have, I mean, we should be able to put the county vehicle somewhere else within the county. Have them drive to this, maybe the sheriff's office or something. I mean, we can get creative with how we do it if we need more stalls.
How many county vehicles are down?
You know what I'm saying? Like if people are driving in and then getting their county vehicle and swapping them out, well, let's move the county vehicle somewhere else. We have more parking. And then the people that work directly in the courthouse have them reserved for the spots over here. So that way we're not messing with that.
We can get that on the agenda for a study session.
You got-
Scott.
Well, I'm assuming.
What's that number, Jana?
We put them at a different shop for right now.
Which, for the lot over there, or?
I think we should look at the whole
Whole
picture,
thing.
the big picture of what we're doing, where we're gonna go.
Okay.
You know, right now, our public health department's out of the annex building, which is handicap accessible, although they're on the first floor, but, you know, restroom doors are 36 inches or 32 inches, whatever they are. You know, so really it's,
Well, public health is really still over on, what is it, Second Street? or
yeah,
whatever.
well, that's partially true, yeah, they're in both places.
Is there,
They might be, I don't know.
they,
I mean, I'm in favor of putting it on the agenda for a study session and get everybody in here and give.
Yeah, sounds
give-
good to me.
When do we wanna do the study session? Next week?
Sure.
Fine with me.
I'm good with that.
Finish it out then. At least we have some numbers to work with, so that's important.
so we'll have, putting that out for, bids, then could, I'm trying to just think, this parking lot out here, we can't hardly, well,
We go to redo that during this time, that's gonna be a mess.
right. Make improvements on it. Actually, traffic's been pretty low out there, it seems like, but if something happens with courts and stuff, then it
Mm-hmm.
picks up. Okay, well, we'll just put those on next week's, well, I mean, are we gonna try to make any decisions next week, or?
I think we should.
Well, I think we should.
On that parking lot over there. Redoing this one, I think we should wait. My opinion.
Talk about all of them. I mean, might as well just.
Right, no,
figure
I
out what we
mean,
wanna
but,
do.
yeah. Cause that, the
Jason, when are they starting to tear this down? Is it going now?
Tomorrow, yep, they'll be breaking ground tomorrow.
Okay.
Sooner we know on the bidding one, how that's gonna go, so.
How long does you anticipate that to be?
Okay.
What's timeline?
For the courthouse addition project?
No, the service building.
Oh, for the services building demo? Right now, we're doing the asbestos abatement, they've probably got 2 more weeks in there,
Oh, okay.
working on that. Then Jim Hall will get in there and start doing the actual demo. I think he estimates anywhere from 3 weeks to a month for
Okay.
that.
3 weeks to a month, we'll be without any parking over there?
We're gonna try and maybe save some of them on the west side of the parking. You know, on the west side of the first lot that you pull
Right.
into off Fifth Avenue,
We'll
but
just
that,
haul that back,
yep, that may be it.
okay.
I think even some of those folks that park there are a little bit hesitant about flying rocks and who knows what, so there might be some empty spaces.
Okay, well, we'll
So
have all
battering
that back,
rams.
and I guess if you can collect any more.
We need recess till we can figure out this stupid fire alarm.
Okay.
Is it gonna be, is it just this one?
I don't know.
Somebody's
Got the burning their bacon or something.
Parking structure's only $70.
You wanna put that on hold,
Pause, I can
or so we
pause.
need to
Well, I don't know,
say anything to do this?
pausing,
Services building use.
I don't know.
But just like that, Schultz walks out and shuts off.
I don't know what that will
No,
do to the
we're going.
YouTube recording
Part of this is part of the veteran.
if I pause.
Let's just-
this floor?
Sounds like it.
Just this floor?
Only thing parking?
It's funny smoke.
It's not really continually going. If it was, I'd say, well, if I had to go.
This afternoon, it's about to get heated.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Haven't got all our homework done yet. Did you take a picture of your computer junk we have in every shop? Just ask us if you wanna keep it or not. My wife, house cleaning.
Well,
Sounds like there would be a bunch of those going off. Isn't there one in here? One of those little red boxes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Time to
It's
change
all
batteries.
down this, there's a couple of them down the hallway here, they're all going off.
Oh, they all are?
So you get that new motorcycle picked up?
Dock on the backside, as you come through the alley and they can straight truck into it. Forks, building the ground. Weird.
They get a
It's
fix?
only going off on this floor,
Break up the six.
and only out there, not on the B-Wing quite a bit of.
Always wondered, how did they ever decide to put so many files on the second floor? Cause
I feel
file rooms.
Jason went down
There's
last
way
week.
a ton, like, I don't
be running around too.
What,
Where's the elevator?
Yeah, are you heading down on, are you taking that on a trip here pretty quick?
North Broadway Bridge, John?
Yes,
What, is that the one out there by Krispy Kreme?
Yeah,
right there.
They're gonna close North Broadway?
They're gonna reconstruct that. I don't know what the staging is, but they just talked to me about getting a temporary drive onto Quate for a resident there. So I don't know if the road's closing completely, but I think it probably is.
A single lane and with alternating traffic.
Oh.
We did that,
Wow,
so, yeah, it'll be a mess for
how
a
long
while.
is that gonna be?
Oh, starting August 2nd through the end of the year, and then probably some paving in the spring. They'll open it back up over the winter.
are you doing precast or are you doing a bridge?
It's a box culvert that we're putting
Yeah.
back. Yeah, so cast in place. Bars.
Okay,
Oh, is that one on 59 by the new shop open yet?
Tomorrow it's supposed to open.
That was a state project, right?
Next agenda item, set that.
We safe?
Fire panel's got a ground fault. I'm not sure exactly what the cause is yet. We'll get into it.
okay, is Melvin, what did he roll to? Oh, there he comes.
Evacuated.
No
Okay. Motion and a second to approve and authorize.
wait a minute, I was paused.
Motion, and a second to approve and authorize chairman to sign employment agreements with Chief Information Officer David Byer, HR Director Janet Limerick, Building Ground Director Jason Slack, Finance Budget Director Mitch Kai, Planning and Development Director Matt White, and Community Services Director Suzanne Watson.
I make a motion to approve.
Yeah. Yeah, more than likely, I'll let you know, so you know for sure.
I'll second it.
Okay. Who wants to start?
Questions? Comments?
I can, I have a couple of discussion points, because I overheard some of the discussion last week, and just from, this will be my own perspective on what to do before ending the signing of the contracts for these, and it would be, the first part of it would be to make sure they have the policies in place, because I do agree that there's like the personal leave piece of it can be written into policy, but it would be, policy that I think we should get into place before the contracts go away, and we don't have like leave just another thing where we're saying, hey, let's just track it on an Excel book and then work your way into it. The other part of it, that the contracts do allow for us is it does have that, caveat in there to where department head could get 30 days of pay if they were terminated from there. And I know that Iowa is an at-will state, but we do have, each of the department heads that are listed on there, we do have that little extra caveat on it of being appointed by an elected board to where somebody could make it their campaign platform to either that they're not happy with John, they're not happy with myself, and that's their prospect of running, winning election, and then they get on, and we could wind up being terminated at that point in time. And it would be nice to say, you know, we at least have that little bit of a 30-day cushion to get us by before we found other employment in that case. And then the last part of it is that we do have, there are other boards out there that are either appointed by the Board of Supervisors or the Board of Supervisors sit on, and they have kind of set a precedence to where at least one person's been approved for a 3-year employment contract. And so it's a security blanket really to know that, hey, you have a 3-year employment contract or a 1-year employment contract to say. And so it would be kind of nice if that benefit were put out there for all of us as department heads to have an optional from a 1 to a 3-year employment agreement. But those are my points.
John?
Are you looking at me? I just wanted to be included in the discussion, so just kind of here today if I can answer any questions on my contract. So I had to ask for some edits and sent those to you and Jenna and sent those around, so.
I mean, so I'm just devil's advocate. I don't care either way, just to be real clear. It doesn't matter. I'm fine with whatever the department heads want. The devil's advocate to your point about, you know, a campaign agenda item, I guess, or, you know, someone gets elected and they want to remove department heads. Wouldn't it make more sense to not have a contract then? So that way you're just an employee and then you have to go through a whole process to eliminate a position. Because now someone could get elected, you know, 3 people could be elected on one cycle that have that same mentality, and they would have to, they basically just get rid of it. They could just not renew your contract. Whereas if you were an employee, then you'd have to go through a whole process to eliminate. So I mean, I don't know. I'm totally fine either way. I mean, just to me, it's almost like if you think of the federal level of government, you get a new administration in there, and generally speaking, everyone that was part of that administration is now gone. But some of those agencies, they don't do that. The agencies are employed and they're there. It's not a contract. They're employees of that organization. And in order for that new presidential administration to remove those folks, it's a process and it's a lot more difficult. And the whole idea was that you had continuity of government there. So I don't know. But
It doesn't make a difference
it
to
doesn't
me
mean
either.
either. I want to do whatever you guys are more comfortable with. If you want a contract, then let's roll that way.
Well, the only thing I would say, there's, and I didn't talk to all of them, but over the years, the things that have been brought up, the personal leave thing, which it isn't in the employee handbook, so without the contract, they don't really have that available to them per se, you know. And then I think, I don't know that Matt brought it up this time, but I think there really needs to be an evaluation process done, whether we think it's going to be done on an annual basis or every other year or whichever, but I think some sort of feedback from the board and some sort of evaluation form that would be beneficial for both parties is something that's needed. And they need to do that even with their own departments, I think.
Would we do that before we sign the contract?
What's that?
The evaluation?
Well, right at that point.
You could, I mean, it's hard, it's time, you know, depending on the timing and such, so when you wanted to have those discussions with the.
Matt, we really don't know when the contract started. And what's beneficial about it, what's negative about it?
This is tough, I mean, I'd say as the county attorney representing the board, I'd say I don't know that employment agreements do a whole lot to protect or help the county. Other than I do think that obviously if you wanna keep your department heads happy, I mean, it does offer them some protections. I 100% agree with Matt Wyant that if you're going to get rid of them, then you need to have the policies in place before that happens. So if that's the board's, idea, I would suggest that ought to be handled, maybe you're signing agreements this year and deal with those issues for future years. An issue I know Leanne had raised with me was, is it permissible for us to pay severance, to government employees? I believe it is, and I think a very recent case, like within the past couple of months, came down from the Iowa Supreme Court, was Doreen Mowry, city clerk in Carter Lake, her contract was not renewed. She wasn't reappointed as city clerk, but there was a severance agreement that was in place for pay. And the Supreme Court, that issue was really never addressed on the propriety of paying severance to employees that are, government employees. But I guarantee you, as hard as that case was litigated, if that was not appropriate, Carter Lake would have raised it, and it would have been dealt with by the Supreme Court. And they just sort of washed right past that, and she was ultimately entitled to be paid severance. So I don't have a concern about that. I mean, I think that's legal. The concern on the side of the county is, I don't know that that's 30-day severance. What is that? Yeah, that sort of seems to me like a floor. If you sign an agreement to somebody that you're gonna hire them for a year, and you decide 2 months in that they know their services are no longer required, I'd make a pretty good argument on behalf of the employee that they're entitled to be paid out through their contract, which is 10 months, remaining. So, I mean, it sort of seems to me on these, when you sign in a contract, that contract has a term. If you decided to not, hire them again, or say they got 2 weeks left on their contract, I sort of feel like they got at least 30 days severance coming regardless. But if they've got 10 months left on their contract, I think it'd be whether they would win or not win that argument, it is certainly a legitimate argument to say that they are being, that their contract is being, broken, and we would still owe them throughout the period of the agreement. So I think that's probably the biggest maybe danger for the county in signing these agreements, is that you're sort of locking yourself in to, to paying throughout the course of the year. Iowa's an at-will employment state, so when there is no agreement, then everybody's employees at will. When there is an agreement, right, now they become a contract employee, and it's a whole set of different laws, or different rules apply. And I think that's probably the biggest issue for the board, would be, if you decided you weren't happy with somebody's services 2 or 3 months into their contract, that you just may be on the horn. I mean, look at Bo Pelini, how many coaches is Nebraska paying for right now? I mean, that's, they sign these 5-year agreements, and then they keep paying them, right? So.
You're using the word coach pretty loosely there.
Yeah. So I think that's the issue that you would run into potentially, is the thought that, that folks can't be, that you'd have to pay out that contract, perhaps that's something you want to do. I'm okay with it. I just want you to understand, I think
Okay,
that
so
that
the
is-
contract probably came about from the board in the past, was a way to get rid of someone without facing them and saying, you're fired. That's basically it. So really,
Cleaner.
it's easier for the board, whatever. So the provisions in the contract, if we wrote them into their individual handbook or whatever, that would be acceptable?
I don't think so. I
I'm
mean, of course it
asking-
would be acceptable, but I don't know that you would put something specific for just one set of employees in the employee handbook. That's really broad for
And
all
that
of
may
the
have been one of
employees.
the catches there.
Maybe so. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. There is a clause in the employment contracts for just cause. Obviously, if someone, does something very bad, steals money, something very bad, you can get them out. You don't have to wait until that contract
I
expires.
got one more question. Garfield, is he an employee or a?
Scott doesn't need these.
At
does.
At this time,
I'll give
Garfield
him
does
that
not have an
chance.
employment contract. Garfield and I had the conversation this morning, and we'll be having some further conversations about that topic.
Okay,
I think, Nick's contract is also, that's his board, so you're not even, you have a contract, regardless of the decision we make today, you still have a contract.
your board.
Right, and that's why I wanted to be here, because, if the decision was made to go to a 3-year contract, and as a department head, I'd want to line up with my other department heads in my county, so just so they're kind of on the same.
I don't know, we have to look at the state code on that, but I'm not sure if that's, I think yours is subject
What
to
I'd
the
like to do
annual.
is leave my motion stand to approve their contracts.
Correct.
I will just say this, I think that's something that we ought to take a look at and make sure that we're covering the taxpayers of Potawatomi County. However, we didn't get to be in this great financial shape in a well-oiled, well-run county without quality department heads. So I don't have an issue either way. I just want to protect the taxpayers. That's all I want to do. Really. The only way anybody on a contract, in my opinion, would, or department head, whether you're on a contract or not, would be terminated from their position is if lack of production, and that pretty much means not even showing up to work or misuse of county funds. Either way, any employee would be terminated for that. And the department heads are no different in that respect. But, we wouldn't be where we're at without them, so.
That, I would agree 100% with that. The only thing is, I still go back to, if Matt, discussion, what Matt Wilbur's discussion about, if when you have a new department head or something of that nature, does it make sense for that to be in, and do we take this time to get all those things into the county policy handbook and create that for department heads, so we don't have these contracts, because if the board, as someone said, elected changes and says, well, we don't want to do contracts anymore, at least it's in the policy handbook. I guess we just don't know the history of this that well. And then also I'd like to see us work, I don't know what the group would be, Jana, for sure, that maybe a couple of department heads and a couple board members and stuff work on, get some sample evaluation forms and stuff. I think I would hope they would be appreciative of that rather than just the annual, I'm sure they're appreciative of the annual increase too, but
Yeah,
I think some feedback.
Job performance feedback is always good, for
Yeah.
sure. We could put a committee together to begin working on it.
Because what we used to do, we did it for a couple of years in a row, anyway, I think, was with that annual review. And it was, one time we did it at the point at which our contracts were getting signed. We came in and we did the annual review with the board. We had a form that we filled out, set some goals and things. And then I think the following year, we followed up with that again, but I don't remember if we tried to correlate that a little bit more with budget time because of some of those things, but it was like the time period had switched, so I think that
We had
committee.
an election in the middle of it, that's why it just
Yeah.
changed, we didn't keep doing it.
So like that group would be good to not only come up with a form, but then like a timeline on this is when the best time would be to go through those, whether it's contract time or budget time.
Yeah. And then did we go without, was there a gap one year without contracts and?
We had some really late ones in like September or
Yeah,
October.
we got to sign them or something, and then we came back and did them.
So
Pretty
I
sure
went back-
Tom said, I don't know.
I went back through minutes, and I just went to 2015, and they've been there since 2015 consistently, but a lot of times they were signed in September or November, but actually started in July. So that could be maybe what you were thinking about. I mean, I can certainly go back farther, but I only went back 6 years and they've been there consistently, so.
Okay.
So I'd ask you guys, would you feel, you department heads, I should say, do you feel better with the contract or the employment? Like Janet's talking, going through the handbook and putting all the provisions in there.
I'm more concerned with the limitation of authority in the contract than anything else in the contract. There's a clause in there that we can't make commitments for the county without written permission from the board, and I don't know what that looks like in practice, but I can't believe I'm really dealing with people in good faith if that's the standard.
So if you gotta buy a trash can, you're supposed to come here and talk to us?
I don't know what that means exactly. It's
Permission?
it's kind of scary vague.
Well,
That's,
you still have, pieces of the code that you have to abide by regardless of what. I mean, that's, county engineers have their own rules they have to go by.
I'm gonna chime in just real quick, because I'm just looking through this, and I note that it could be just because John's requested some changes to the language in his contract, but he's actually not on this agenda item as I'm looking at it.
Right.
So we'll have to have a separate,
Mhm.
and the engineer's a little different as well. I don't know that you're required to have a
Yes.
contract, but you are required to appoint him for 1 to 3 years at a shot. Whereas all the other department heads, that's not the case. So, I mean, regardless, even if you decided to eliminate contracts, you still would have to have, I think, a separate action by the board to appoint John to a term of 1 to 3 years.
That's state
Although it's
code.
weird because the code says he has to be appointed 1 to 3 years and then can be terminated at any time. So that's, I mean, welcome to our legislature, but that's the way the code reads in chapter 309. And I know I've had at least some email communication with John where I said, if there's a conflict between the contract and the code controls. I mean, you cannot have agreements with the engineer that are contrary to code. If you do, the code is gonna control over the contract would be found void. So I'm less concerned about John's concerns about authority, because I think he has certain code authority as the engineer that he just gets to do. And I think if you tried to limit that by contract, it'd be contrary to code, and that the contract would be void. But I don't disagree, he's got maybe some differences in language that would be appropriate for him that might not be the same for everybody else.
And to answer your question, Brian, I mean, I don't wanna speak for all the department heads, but the department heads that have reached out appear to feel more comfortable with the contract.
I'll leave my motion.
Okay, I'm not, and I'd have to really give some further consideration in regards to the doing a multi-year contract. I mean, it seems like it's more one-sided than taking care of the taxpayers, what we're representing here to represent, so. Okay, so motion by Shay and second by Schultz. And no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks for coming up, everybody.
I think we get with Jen next week. Unfortunately, we should terminate somebody after 2 months of employment. I'm not in favor of paying for that.
No, we got the 30-day clause.
That needs to be spelled out explicitly in the next go around. Where was the discussion at the?
Can we, after budget next year, can we work on this?
No, it needs to be worked on.
We'll start working on that.
I'm good with that. Let's get it punched out.
Okay.
Okay, Scotty, I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 66-2021, resolution directing the advertisement for sale of $1,905 for general obligation capital loan notes, series 2021A, and approving the electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
Whatever 3 of them are kosher with, that's what I'm kosher with.
Any, excuse me, any just further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Chairman Belt.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman. Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Okay,
Scotty, I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution 67-2021, a resolution directing the advertisement for sale of $12 million of general obligation urban renewal bonds, series 2021B, and approving electronic bidding procedures and official statement.
I'll second.
just so that we were, the dollar amount subject to change, so. and Shay, second. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Chairman Belt.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Okay, Scott, I'll make a motion to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution number 55-2021 entitled a resolution for transfer from rural services fund to the secondary roads fund. And that's in the amount of $1,275,000.
This is our,
What are they? Third, fourth quarter, I suppose.
yeah, our kind of I was gonna say annual appropriation, but it's the fourth quarter
Well, I
approach.
think you do it quarterly, don't we? Give it to him.
So this, this would be the last one for the fiscal year, 2021, right?
Yes.
Are they about the same amount each time?
For the annual amount, or for the quarterly amount, but when John requests that annually, they change.
Okay, and then they're divided into the four.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Roll call?
Chairman Belt.
Aye.
Supervisor Wickman.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Shay.
Aye.
Okay. Approve and authorize the board to sign Board Resolution 5621 entitled Resolution for Reappropriation Between Departments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Chairman Belt.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman. Schultz.
Aye.
Shay.
Aye.
Becky Linehan, Finance and Tax Officer, Auditor's Office, discussion and decision to allow, approve, disallow the following applications made to the Assessor's Office, Homestead, 67 recommended, 11 recommended disallowed, military, 9 recommended, 1 recommended disallowed, disabled veteran homestead, 5 recommended, 0 disallowed, business property tax registry, recommended 0 allowed, disallowed. Family farm, 5 recommended allowed, 0 disallowed.
I'll make that motion. I want for discussion. I want to ask a couple questions.
I'll second for discussion.
Becky, when it says on the military side of it, it says drop for change in mailing address. Do they move to another home?
They have a different mailing address, and it's out of state, so they don't qualify. If they had a different mailing address and they were still lived, like in Des Moines, they would still qualify, we wouldn't drop it. But when they move out of state, they no longer qualify.
Is that the same situation with the homestead?
With the homestead, if they move out of that home into another home, have another mailing address, then the assessor gives me those, and they suggest that they're dropped. Mhm.
If they move out of the county.
If they move out of the home
They have to
into
come and
another
register
home.
for the new home.
You have to live in the home where the homestead's,
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other
They'd be eligible.
discussion?
They sold one house and moved to another house.
and they're eligible on the other
On
house,
the other
not the
house,
house
right,
that they're
right,
not
right,
living
right.
in.
They'd have to reapply.
Scotty, I'll make a motion to, I'm sorry, Chairman Belt, I'll make a motion to go into.
Well, before you do that real quick, I just want to acknowledge that we are receiving filing the classification,
Grab him later.
the compensation study,
You'll
and
grab Scotty
it
later.
was
Yeah,
a
but I knew you wanted to get out of here,
3-year
so I'll go ahead and
process,
get you to sign it
and
when you
that,
go.
Yeah,
Before
no,
you
I
go.
probably won't leave for,
it
I
is
might
just a roadmap
make it through
for
this whole
us,
thing.
and I think it's a live document that we will continue to use and continue to update and get everybody where we think they should be. And appreciate everybody's efforts in that. It's not been an easy process, and it's the first time probably in county history that it's ever been done. So I want to say thanks to everybody involved. We're open to have those discussions and continue to make it a better document. So is there something you want to say in that regard, Jana?
No, I think it was well said what you said.
Okay.
Now I'll make a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code 21.5, parent 1, parent C, for discussion on pending litigation.
Second.
Excuse me.
Okay, Chairman. No. Supervisor Shea.
Aye.
Rickman. Schultz.
You mix it up just to keep us on our toes.
Well, gets a little bit redundant, it's just kind of, start